This story is titled, My Fiancé Cheated with My Cousin. My rich uncle covered it up, and my parents sided with them. So I took my revenge, and now they are begging. So I've been putting off writing this for weeks, but I need to get it off my chest. Not sure if this is the right sub, but whatever. Fair warning, this is going to be long. So I, 32 male, was engaged to Olivia, 29 female, for about 8 months. We'd been together for 4 years before that. Everyone thought we were this perfect couple, always posting those happy pics on Instagram, you know the type. I'd say I was the one putting in most of the effort in this relationship. I was always planning date nights, surprising her with little gifts, driving across town to get her favorite takeout when she had a bad day. I even took on a side gig doing some freelance work just so I could afford the kind of engagement ring she hinted at wanting. The biggest thing was probably the Mustang I bought her for our 3-year anniversary, a vintage 67 that I spent months restoring myself. Olivia had mentioned wanting a cute classic car once, and I went all in, pouring every spare dollar and weekend into fixing it up perfect for her. Meanwhile, Olivia was all about appearances, making sure we looked great together at events, tagging us at fancy restaurants, telling everyone how blessed she was. But honestly, I was so in love I didn't mind being the one who gave more. I figured that's just how relationships work sometimes. One person loves harder, right? Then there's my cousin Derek. He's 31, recently divorced, and the kind of guy who thinks he's God's gift to women. Always been the charming one in the family. Knows how to work a room, tells all the right jokes, makes everyone feel special. My uncle, his dad, basically bankrolls Derek's entire life since his divorce. Got him a job at one of his car dealerships, pays for his apartment, the whole 9 yards. Derek and I were a bit close growing up, like, we have some memories together. Now, Olivia and Derek had this weird connection from the moment they met at a family BBQ 2 years ago. She'd laugh extra hard at his jokes, always find some reason to be wherever he was at family functions. I remember this one Christmas party where I couldn't find her for like 30 minutes, and when I did, she was in the kitchen with Derek, standing way closer than necessary while he showed her how to make a proper old-fashioned. They were always vibing in a way that should have set off alarm bells, but I brushed it off as Olivia being her usual social self. God, I was blind. My parents have this thing where they host these big family dinners once a month. Honestly, they're usually boring as hell. Just the same conversations about who got promoted or whose kid made honor roll. But Olivia was always super insistent that we go to every single one. She'd get weirdly upset if I even suggested skipping. Should have been my first clue something was up, but I'm not exactly Sherlock Holmes. Quick background about my uncle, I'll call him Keith. He basically runs our family. He's loaded, owns like 3 car dealerships, and has been helping out my parents financially ever since I can remember. He paid for their house, my college, basically everything. And because of that, whatever Uncle Keith says might as well be written in stone. I always hated that dynamic, but kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. So anyway, this particular dinner was at my parents' place last couple of months. My mom made her pot roast that everybody pretends to love. We're all sitting around the table, my cousins, my sister Emma, Uncle Keith holding court at the head of the table like he's the godfather or something. About an hour in, I notice Olivia keeps disappearing from the table. First time, she says she needs to take a work call. Comes back like 15 minutes later. Then it happens again. And a third time. I didn't think much of it until I realized her phone had been sitting on the table the whole time. It never rang once. So the 4th time she slips away, I wait a couple minutes, then go looking for her. I check the bathroom. Empty. Front porch. Nobody there. Then I'm walking past my dad's home office and hear these hushed voices coming from inside. The door's cracked open just enough that I can see through. Guys, what I saw literally made me sick to my stomach. Olivia was sitting on the desk with my cousin Derek's hands all over her. And the way they were so comfortable with each other, this wasn't some drunk mistake. I knew it wasn't their first time. I pushed the door open so hard it slammed against the wall. They jumped apart like they'd been electrocuted. The look on their faces. First shock, then this pathetic attempt to look innocent. Derek actually had the fucking balls to say, "It's not what it looks like." Not what it looks like? Are you kidding me? I completely lost it. Grabbed him by his shirt and slammed him against my dad's bookshelf. A bunch of my dad's golf trophies crashed to the floor. I was seeing red. Not what it looks like. You're making out with my fiancé in my parents' house and it's not what it looks like? Olivia started crying, saying she was sorry, it just happened. All that classic cheater bullshit you see in movies. I couldn't even look at her. Just kept my eyes on Derek. We grew up together. Used to go fishing every summer. He was at my college graduation. And there he was, stabbing me in the back in the most fucked up way possible. That's when everyone came rushing in. My parents, Uncle Keith, my sister, everybody. My mom gasped at all the broken trophies on the floor. My dad looked confused as hell. And then Uncle Keith stepped forward and literally pulled me off Derek like I was some out-of-control teenager. "What the hell is going on here?" he demanded. I was still so angry I could barely speak. "Tell them," I said to Derek. "Tell them what you were doing with Olivia." Derek just stammered some bullshit. Olivia was full-on sobbing in the corner now, mascara running down her face. Uncle Keith stepped between me and Derek like he was protecting him. "That's enough," he said. "Whatever this is, we're not doing it at a family dinner." I looked at everyone standing there staring at me and said, "I just caught Olivia and Derek making out in here. They've been sneaking around behind my back." The room went dead silent. Then my mom said they probably just had too much to drink. My dad suggested maybe I misinterpreted what I saw. "Are you fucking kidding me?" Misinterpreted. I knew right then I wasn't going to get any support from them. Uncle Keith was already in damage control mode, and my parents would follow his lead like they always do. So I grabbed my car keys and left. Didn't say goodbye, didn't take Olivia with me. Let her figure out her own way home. I don't know if Derek drove her or what, and honestly, I couldn't care less. I drove around for hours, ended up at this coffee shop downtown where nobody knew me. When I finally checked my phone, I had like 32 messages from Olivia. All the usual cheater crap about how sorry she was, and how it was a mistake, and please come home so we can talk about it. Talk about what exactly? How long she'd been cheating? How many times? If it was just Derek or if there were others too? I crashed at a buddy's place that night. Couldn't face going back to our apartment knowing what I knew. The next day I woke up at Mike's place, feeling like absolute garbage. Partly from the hangover, partly from, having my entire life blown up. Mike's a good dude. Didn't ask too many questions, just handed me a coffee and said I could stay as long as I needed. I had like 50 plus notifications on my phone by morning. Most from Olivia, but also from my mom, my dad, and even Uncle Keith. I ignored all of them and went to take the world's longest shower, hoping the hot water would somehow wash away the mental image of Olivia and Derek together. After I got dressed, my phone rang again. It was my sister Emma. She's 3 years younger than me, but way smarter. She's always been the only person in our family who calls out the BS. I picked up and she immediately went, "Holy shit, are you okay? Mom called me crying last night but wouldn't tell me what happened. So I got it from cousin Jen. Is it true about Olivia and Derek?" I told her everything. Felt good to finally talk to someone who wasn't immediately trying to make excuses for them. Emma just listened, then said, "What a couple of assholes. I'm so sorry, bro." Simple as that. Around noon, my mom called. She started in right away with, "You need to talk to Olivia, sweetie. She's absolutely devastated. Everyone makes mistakes." I lost it a little. "Mom, finding the wrong exit on the highway is a mistake. Making out with your fiancé's cousin at a family dinner is a choice." She got all quiet, then said, "I know you're hurt, but family is family. We need to figure out how to move forward together." Translation: Uncle Keith doesn't want any drama disrupting his perfect little family hierarchy. Speaking of the devil, my phone rang again right after I got off with Mom. "Uncle Keith, now, you gotta understand something about my uncle. He's not someone you ignore in our family. He's like 6 feet 2 inches, ex-military, made his fortune in car dealerships, and basically holds financial power over everyone. He paid for my college, got me my first job, etc. My parents might as well be his employees for how much they depend on his generosity. So even though I was furious, I answered, 'You made quite a scene last night,' he said, not even bothering with a hello. 'I caught my fiancé cheating on me with Derek,' I replied. 'What did you expect?' 'Look, these things happen,' Keith said, like we were talking about a fender bender or something. 'Derek's going through a rough patch since his divorce. He made a mistake. Olivia made a mistake. But causing a scene like that at your parents' house? That was uncalled for.' I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Uncalled for. Are you serious right now? I am, and I think you need to calm down and handle this like an adult. Derek already apologized to me." "To you," I interrupted. "Why the fuck is he apologizing to you?" Keith's voice got that stern tone he uses when he's pulling rank. "Because I'm the one who had to calm your parents down after your outburst. Look, son, everyone makes mistakes. You need to figure out if you can forgive Olivia and move forward." That was the moment something in me snapped. I've spent my whole life tiptoeing around Keith, grateful for his generosity, letting him dictate how our family operates. And now he was trying to dictate how I should respond to being betrayed? I hung up on him. Literally just ended the call mid-sentence. Nobody in my family had ever hung up on Keith before. Then, I turned off my phone and went for a drive just to clear my head. When I got back to Mike's place, I turned my phone back on and saw I had missed calls from literally everyone in my family except Emma, plus about 20 more pathetic messages from Olivia. I'd just made myself a sandwich when there was a knock at the door. Mike opened it, then came back looking awkward. Your parents are here. Great. Just what I needed. They were standing in Mike's living room looking completely out of place. My mom had clearly been crying, and my dad had that constipated look he gets when he's uncomfortable. I didn't invite them to sit down or anything, just stood there with my arms crossed, waiting for whatever lecture they'd prepared. My dad said, "Son, we're worried about you." Worried about me? What about being worried about the fact that Olivia and Derek betrayed me? My mom wiped her eyes. We're not saying what they did was right, but people make mistakes, and families forgive each other. This isn't some minor fuck-up, I said. She was going to marry me. We were planning a life together. My dad shifted uncomfortably. Keith thinks. I don't give a shit what Keith thinks, I snapped. My parents exchanged this look that spoke volumes. Keith has always been there for this family, my dad said carefully. He helped us buy our house. He got Derek his job after the divorce. He paid for your college, for God's sake. And there it was. The real reason they were here. Keith was upset that I disrespected him, and they were doing damage control. So because Uncle Keith gives everyone money, I'm supposed to pretend it's fine that my fiancé cheated on me with my cousin. No, but, my mom started. But nothing. You're not here because you care about me. You're here because Keith told you to fix this. My dad's face hardened. That's not fair. We care about everyone in this family. Just not as much as you care about keeping Keith happy, I said. My mom started crying again, and I felt like shit. I mean, it's not entirely their fault they're so dependent on Keith. The economy hit them hard back in 2008, and Keith swooped in to save them, but they've been under his thumb ever since. Look, I said, a little calmer. I know you guys are in a tough spot, but I'm not going to pretend everything's okay when it's not. I can't be around Olivia or Derek right now, maybe ever. And I'm definitely not going to apologize to Keith for hanging up on him. My dad sighed. Keith's hosting a family dinner next Sunday. He expects everyone to be there, including you. I laughed. Not happening. Please, my mom begged. Just come to dinner. Hear Keith out. That's all we're asking. I'll think about it, I lied, just to get them to leave. No way in hell was I going to sit through a dinner with Olivia and Derek while Keith lectured everyone about family unity. I stayed at Mike's for a few more days, then found a short-term rental that I could afford without dipping into the savings Olivia and I had for the wedding. The irony of using my honeymoon fund to pay for a security deposit on a sad little studio apartment wasn't lost on me. I finally went back to our place to get my stuff when I knew Olivia would be at work. Half expected her to have changed the locks or something, but she hadn't. The apartment looked exactly the same, except she'd put all our engagement photos face down. Real mature. I just grabbed my clothes, my PlayStation, and a few other essentials. Left all the furniture and kitchen stuff. I could buy new plates, but I couldn't stand the thought of sitting on the couch where we'd spent so many nights together, now tainted by the knowledge that she'd been lying to my face. As I was loading the last box into my car, our neighbor from across the hall stopped me. She's this sweet old Indian lady who always brings us homemade samosas. Young man, she said, that girl has had many visitors while you were gone. Men visitors. Late at night. Great. So not only was Olivia cheating with Derek, but apparently others too? Or maybe Mrs. Patel was just confused. Either way, I didn't want to know. I thanked her and got the hell out of there. That night, I blocked Olivia's number. Not out of spite, but for my own sanity. I couldn't keep seeing her name pop up with another excuse or apology. It was time to move on. The first week in my new place was rough, not gonna lie. It's this tiny studio above a Thai restaurant that smells like curry 24/7. But at least it was mine, you know? No memories of Olivia, no family drama, just me trying to put my life back together one day at a time. Work was a good distraction. I'm a project manager at a construction company. Nothing fancy, but it pays decent. My boss was actually pretty cool about everything. Wish my family could take notes from my boss. About a week after I moved into my new place, Emma texted asking if I wanted company. She showed up with a large pizza, and we ended up talking for hours. She immediately joked about my minimalist apartment, which was really just a sad little studio above a Thai restaurant. We got into the whole family situation, with Emma telling me our parents thought I was being difficult, like not wanting to sit around with the people who betrayed me while Uncle Keith lectures everyone about forgiveness was somehow unreasonable. What really surprised me was finding out how deep Keith's control went. Derek was literally Keith's charity case, which explained why everyone was giving him a pass. When I asked about Olivia, Emma told me she'd been at our parents' house crying and claiming it was a one-time mistake. And Keith was there too, apparently taking a personal interest in resolving the situation. Emma warned me to be careful, saying this wasn't just about money, but about influence. If I stood up to Keith, others might get ideas. She said that by refusing to forgive and forget, I wasn't just standing up for myself, but challenging the whole family power structure. Stand your ground if that's what you believe in, she told me. Just know it won't be easy. And for what it's worth, I've got your back. Having Emma on my side made me feel less alone in this whole mess. After Emma left, I checked my phone and saw I had a voicemail from Olivia. Hey, it's me. I know you probably hate me right now, and I don't blame you. But please, can we just talk? I never meant to hurt you. Derek and I, it was stupid, a mistake. I miss you so much. Please call me back. I love you. I deleted it immediately. The next morning, I got a text from cousin Jen checking in despite Keith telling everyone to not bother me. Even in her kindness, she acknowledged his authority. When I asked about Derek, she revealed Keith was secretly pissed at him, but keeping up appearances publicly, probably more concerned about his image as the perfect family patriarch than my actual feelings. Classic Keith. Then I got a formal invitation in my email for Sunday dinner at the home of Keith, like it was some kind of royal summons. The email listed the time, the dress code, business casual because Keith is pretentious like that, and even the menu. At the bottom was a personal note. Your presence is required as we have important family matters to discuss. Required. Not requested. Required. Like I was an employee being called into a meeting. I hit delete without responding. That evening, my dad called. Did you get Keith's invitation? He asked without preamble. Yeah, I got it. Not going. My dad sighed heavily. Son, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Keith is willing to put this whole unpleasantness behind us. Why can't you do the same? Because it's not up to Keith to decide when I'm over being betrayed by my fiancé and cousin, I said. And it's definitely not up to him to order me to a dinner where I have to pretend everything's fine when it's not. This isn't just about you, my dad said. This is affecting the whole family. Your mother barely sleeps. Emma's being difficult too. Even Jen's asking questions. So everyone should just fall in line because it's easier? Sorry, not happening. Keith has been very patient, but... Dad, I interrupted. I'm going to say this one more time. I don't care what Keith wants. I don't care if he's being patient. This is my life, not his TV show to direct. My dad was quiet for a moment. Then, in a lower voice, he said, just think about coming. For your mother's sake, if not for anything else. The guilt trip almost worked. Almost. But then I thought about sitting across a table from Olivia and Derek, making small talk while Keith played a benevolent dictator, and I knew I couldn't do it. I'll send Mom some flowers, I said, and hung up. That night, I had trouble sleeping. Kept going over and over the situation in my head, wondering if I was the crazy one. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I should just go to the dinner, say my piece, and be done with it. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Olivia and Derek together, and the anger came flooding back. No, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't wrong to stand my ground. And if Keith and the rest of the family couldn't respect that, then maybe they weren't the kind of family I wanted in my life anyway. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from Uncle Keith. The battle lines were clearly drawn, and Sunday dinner was approaching fast. Sunday came, and my phone blew up with texts and calls about Keith's dinner. I ignored them all and went for a run. When I got back, someone was pounding on my door like they were trying to break it down. It was Keith, standing there in his Sunday best looking pissed. Before I could say anything, he pushed past me into my apartment. You missed dinner, he said, eyeing my studio with disgust. I didn't miss it. I chose not to attend. Keith's jaw tightened. Your behavior is causing problems. Your mother is upset, your father is stressed, and Derek feels terrible. He should feel terrible. He betrayed me. People make mistakes. Stop saying that, I shouted. This wasn't a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to take out the trash. What they did was a deliberate choice. Things escalated quickly from there. Keith brought up everything he'd ever done for me. College, my first job, etc. I told him I was done with his strings-attached generosity. When he mentioned Olivia wanted to reconcile, I realized he'd been talking to her behind my back. That was the last straw. I told him to get out of my apartment. He looked shocked. Nobody talks to Keith like that. You're making a serious mistake, he warned as he left. This family has supported you your entire life. No, this family has controlled me. There's a difference. I slammed the door behind him, heart pounding. I'd just burned a major bridge, but for the first time in years, I felt free. 3 months later, I got a call from my buddy Jack, who works at a garage. Dude, you're not going to believe who just brought in your Mustang for an oil change. The Mustang. I'd completely forgotten about it. Let me guess, I said. Olivia? Nope. Some guy named Derek. Said the car belongs to him and his girlfriend now. My blood boiled. Not only was Olivia still with Derek, but they were driving my car. I grabbed the title and headed to the garage. Derek was at the counter filling out paperwork when I walked in. He froze. You've got some fucking nerve, I said. Derek tried to look tough. Olivia said you didn't want the car anymore. Did she also tell you the car is registered in my name? Jack, behind the counter, confirmed they couldn't release the vehicle to anyone but the registered owner. Derek called Keith, of course, but I didn't care. Keith can't change whose name is on the title. I took my car back, driving past Olivia, who came running across the parking lot. My phone exploded with calls from all of them, but I only answered when Emma called. Holy shit, she said. You just started World War III. Keith is livid. Not my problem. The car belongs to me. Emma told me Keith called an emergency family meeting, where he ranted about how ungrateful I was, but surprisingly also yelled at Derek for not keeping it in his pants. Their brilliant solution? I should give the car back as a gesture of goodwill, and Keith would help me buy a new one. I laughed at the absurdity. Keith then sent me a formal email with this proposal: return the car, and he'd welcome me back to the family. I didn't reply. Keith wasn't used to being ignored, and he definitely wasn't used to being defied. I knew this was just the beginning of his retaliation. Days later, my dad showed up, revealing Keith threatened to cut them off financially if I didn't return the car and keep quiet about the affair. I refused, telling him I wouldn't sacrifice my dignity because they couldn't stand on their own feet. We argued, and he stormed out. That night, Emma called. Keith had cut my parents off completely. They blamed me entirely, frantically trying to make their mortgage payment. Emma stood by me despite risking her own financial support. My parents eventually showed up at my door unannounced, looking desperate. Mom had clearly been crying for days, and Dad looked like he hadn't slept in a week. They cut straight to the point. They needed $2,300 by Friday or they'd lose the house. Keith had canceled this month's mortgage check, and nobody else would help them for fear of getting on his bad side. I was their last resort. I couldn't believe the audacity. So you're asking me for money after telling me I ruined your lives? I asked. They just stared back with this mix of desperation and entitlement that made my stomach turn. I explained that I couldn't bail them out, partly because I didn't have that kind of cash, but mostly because I refused to become their new financial crutch. If I do this now, you'll just expect me to keep doing it, I told them. I'm not going to replace Keith in your lives. They left without another word, my mom sobbing quietly as they walked to their car, probably one Keith had bought them. That night, I tossed and turned, imagining them losing their home because of my stand against Keith. Around 2 a.m., I caved and wrote them a check for $1,000. Not enough to solve the problem, but something to help. I included a note making it clear this was a one-time thing, that they needed to learn to stand on their own. I slipped it under their door before dawn. They never mentioned it, never called to say thanks, never asked for more. Somehow that silence cut deeper than all their anger and blame. And then it's been 8 months since the car incident, and a lot has changed. I wish I could say my parents saw the light and realized Keith's money wasn't worth his control, but that's not how it played out. According to Emma, they downsized to a small apartment, and Dad came out of retirement to work at a hardware store. Mom still won't speak to me, convinced I destroyed their comfortable life out of spite. Keith, true to form, made an example of them to the rest of the family. This is what happens when you raise ungrateful children, he reportedly said at a family gathering I wasn't invited to. The message was clear. Cross Keith, and you'll end up like my parents. Most of the family fell in line, cutting me off completely. Cousins who I grew up with, aunts and uncles who used to slip me $20 bills on my birthday, all gone, terrified of losing Keith's financial support. Eventually, I realized that relationships built on fear and financial dependence weren't real connections anyway. Emma and I have gotten closer than ever. She moved out of our parents' house and got her own place, refusing Keith's offers of financial help. She's struggling a bit, working 2 jobs to make rent, but she says she's never been happier. It's like I can finally breathe, she told me over beers last week. I know exactly what she means. As for Derek and Olivia, their relationship imploded spectacularly about a month after the car incident. According to Emma, who heard it from our cousin Jen, one of the few who still talks to us secretly, they had a massive fight in the middle of a family dinner. Olivia accused Derek of using her to get to Keith's money, Derek called her a gold digger, and they both stormed out. The stress of losing their transportation, my car, had exposed all the cracks in their relationship. Olivia tried to contact me after the breakup, sent me a long text about how she'd made a terrible mistake, how Derek had manipulated her, how she'd never stopped loving me. I didn't respond. Some bridges can't be rebuilt once they're burned. The Mustang is running beautifully, by the way. I had to put some work into it after getting it back. Derek and Olivia hadn't maintained it properly, but now it's better than ever. Sometimes I take it for long drives out to the coast, windows down, music blasting. Those moments with nothing but open road ahead of me are when I feel most at peace. Last week, something unexpected happened. I was getting home from work when I spotted a familiar figure sitting on the steps to my apartment building. Olivia. She looked like hell. Hair unwashed, wearing sweatpants. Nothing like the perfectly put-together woman I'd been engaged to. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keys in hand. She stood up, eyes pleading. "I need the diamond bracelet I left at our old place. My mom gave it to me and—" "You mean the bracelet I bought you for your birthday last year? The one that cost me 3 months' salary?" I interrupted. Her face flushed. "Look, I know things ended badly, but I really need it. Derek and I broke up, I lost my job, and I could sell it to cover rent this month." The audacity was almost impressive. "So let me get this straight. You cheated on me with my cousin, took my car, and now you want the expensive bracelet I bought you so you can pawn it? Please," she whispered. "I have nowhere else to go." "Not my problem," I said, walking past her. "The bracelet is gone anyway. I sold it months ago." She called after me, but I closed the door on whatever sob story she was spinning. I'd been played enough. 2 days later, my dad called. Apparently, Olivia had gone crying to my parents after I turned her away. "Keith says you need to help her out," my dad started. I laughed into the phone. "Keith is still calling the shots, huh?" "He's family," my dad said defensively. "And he thinks you're being unnecessarily cruel to Olivia." "Of course he does," I replied. "Because heaven forbid anyone in this family suffers consequences for their actions. He wants to meet with you, says it's time to put this nonsense behind us." "That's not going to happen," I said firmly. "I'm done with all of this. With Keith's manipulation, with your inability to stand up to him, with this entire family dynamic. Tell Keith I wish him well, but I won't be coming." Dad's voice hardened. "So that's it? After everything?" "Yeah, that's it. I've made my peace with walking away. I suggest you guys do the same." I hung up and blocked his number. Did the same with every family member except Emma. She understood when I explained I needed a complete break. It's been 2 months since then. Emma tells me the family is still in chaos. Keith is furious that his control is slipping. Apparently, some of the younger cousins are starting to question his authority too. My parents are still struggling financially, but refuse to admit they made a mistake choosing Keith's money over supporting me. The funny thing about cutting toxic people out of your life is how much room it makes for better things. I'm dating someone new. Nothing serious yet, but she's kind and genuine in a way Olivia never was. I got a promotion at work. The Mustang is running better than ever. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that sometimes you have to lose what you thought you wanted to find out what you actually need. I thought I needed Olivia. I thought I needed my family's approval. Turns out, all I really needed was the courage to stand up for myself. For any guys reading this who might be going through something similar, whether it's a cheating partner, a controlling family member, or just feeling trapped in a situation that's slowly killing your spirit, take it from me. Walking away is hard, but staying in a situation that diminishes you is much harder in the long run. You deserve better. We all do. Edit. Holy shit, didn't expect this to blow up like it did. Thanks for all the awards and supportive comments. For those asking about Emma, she's doing great. Still my only connection to the family, but we keep our conversations about her life, not family drama. Edit 2. To answer the most common questions. 1. No, I never took Keith's offer for a new car. The Mustang means more to me than any brand new vehicle ever could. 2. Yes, Olivia has tried to contact me again, this time asking for money directly. Blocked her new number too. 3. For those wondering if I regret cutting ties completely, not for a second. Some bridges need to stay burned.